time I used to spend in Google in doing my search, I find that I spend more time today in Facebook and Twitter. But that's not what I want to talk to you all this evening about. How many of you all can actually recognize this ad? It's something which keeps playing in our TVs. It's a screen cap. Many of you all will be able to recognize it. I mean, it's not a secret, it's the Toyota Etios Diva. But I think one of the things we need to focus on and think about today is, what exactly are some of these icons doing here in a car ad? If you actually notice this ad, it's a very peppy, very cheery, very young ad. But you'll see that as the car goes along, it's followed by all sorts of icons that we as analysts are very familiar with. We can recognize some of them. There's Facebook, Flickr, Twitter, Skype, and all of them. Good evening. My name is Anish, and I represent Nabler Web Solutions. This evening, I will be talking a little bit about what is happening here. Why is it that these icons are actually following one of the new hatchbacks that has been introduced by Toyota? We'll be looking at some of the things that have actually changed in our experience in the web analytics space. How those changes are impacting our work as analysts, and what are some of the responses that we can do. I've been using we in very deliberately because what I want to share with you over the next 20 or so minutes is not a very personal perspective. It is the collective perspective of our organization, Nabler Web Solutions. Nabler Web Solutions started in 2004. We are very privileged to refer to ourselves as one of the pioneers of the web analytics space here in India. The offshoring delivery model that we have been using, which we call the remote web analyst model, is something that has found many customers here in India and predominantly in the English-speaking West. We have customers in North America, Canada, in Europe, Australia. The business lines that we operate in are web analytics, campaign analytics, social media analytics, implementation, testing, optimization, and we also have a dedicated software team that works with us. Just a couple more things before we move on. We are the people who contribute towards the webanalyticsindia.com blog. We are one of the premier corporate members of the Web Analytics Association, and recently we've had the joy of being inducted into the Yahoo Web Analytics Consultant Network. I believe we are the third company in India to be given this honor. So let's come back to the image that I showed you in the beginning. And right throughout this presentation, please keep this in mind. What I'm sharing is actually what we have learned as an organization over the past couple of years. One of the new things that, one of the things that are actually shaping the web analytics landscape, it's changing the contours of the web analytics landscape with the emergence of social media. And this is a very good example. One of the things that we see, and I have an example of that actually in my bag, is that today when we look at even the print advertising, most of the companies seem to give prominence to their Facebook page, to their Twitter page. The specific ad which I'm actually carrying in my bag is actually for Woodlands. At the bottom of the ad, it says you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and interestingly, Foursquare. And that is actually a footwear brand, so very apt. And then almost it's lost in all these things they're actually putting in the footer is actually the domain, the URL is given there. You visit the website and you see the same icons. You have Facebook, you have Twitter, and then you have the RSS subscription. What exactly is happening? All said and done, social media is here to stay. The instance of what exactly social media and the way it is actually touching our lives, I follow the India Against Corruption on Twitter. The amount of information that is actually being passed on is just phenomenal. But what is happening is organizations today are using social media. They want to be there. There are companies who are already there and using it very strategically. There are organizations that want to get in. All said and done, there has been a change from what we call on-site analytics to off-site analytics, where data is coming from domains where we really don't have control, such as Facebook and Twitter. One of the first things that we learned when we started working in social media is you can use various tools, and there are paid tools, and we have used some of them when we work with brands. One of the first things that we notice is the amount of noise that actually, if you use a tool that actually aggregates various posts and comments that are actually made in various social media channels, one of the things we'll actually see is that the amount of noise that comes in. Something else that we'll notice is at the end of the day, what we get from social media data is not just the quantitative data. The real goal is actually found when we actually look at it qualitatively. Some of you all may follow some of the YouTube channels. There's this guy called Ray William Johnson. Recently, I looked at him. He's really famous, very funny. He makes his own commentary on the viral videos for the week. If Ray William Johnson were to look at the number of times his latest video has been viewed, in addition to that specific data point, which is a quantitative data point, it actually makes sense for him to understand how many people actually liked it, not in terms of showing the thumbs up on YouTube, but in terms of saying something to that effect in the comments. How many people disliked it? But to understand that, we need to actually remove all the noise, all the trolls, the trolling that happens over there in the comments. We need to get that out. And it'll be of even more interest to him if he could understand the degree to which people are actually liking it or disliking it. So at the end of it, the moment we actually move into social media space, we are actually trying to grapple with data which is highly qualitative. Also, we've used multiple tools. What we find is there's no real perfect tool. If you look at any of the web analytics tools, most of the tools we know that it's going to give you all these metrics. There's some difference in the way it's implemented, some basic difference, but we have an idea of what we're going to do. Different tools in social media give you different results. Certain tools in social media, paid or free, are specialized in certain channels. For Twitter, there's Twitterizer. We can look at YouTube, and there are various. So in all this complexity, when things are changing, what is it that we can do as analysts? I'm not sure how many of you all, there was someone who introduced himself and said, I'm the social media manager. But I'm not sure, among all the people who are gathered over here, how many people are actually involved in some form of measurement and reporting of social media itself. What I want to leave behind over here with regard to social media is, when you get an opportunity, we need to understand that there will be a great deal of ambiguity while you're starting that engagement. That's been our experience. There was an existing client, a client who was a web analytics customer who spoke to us and said, hey, we want you to start measuring and reporting on the social media activities for our brand. We went ahead, we thought of certain things that we'll do, the frameworks, we put it all together, we put in the proposal and we sent. But honestly, there wouldn't be much clarity. So what we recommend is the moment you get an opportunity to get into the space, first thing is move in there. And that's something it's in retrospect, I can say it actually works. Once we got in and started engaging with the customer, the very first report, that's when we figured out the issue with noise. Some of these tools, especially if you use a free tool, when you come back the next week and look at the same metric that you actually measured, it'll actually be different because they're sampling a different set of data at that point. But what happened is once we got through our first report, it was nothing but a collection of certain data points. We looked at Twitter and said, you have so many followers, you have so many followings, this is the number of tweets you had, these are the competing brands which are there, and these are their statuses with regard to the very same data points, followers for the number of followings, tweets, etc. By the time we we sent the report twice and it started going out within the organization, that's when we started talking and said, hey, we started off to measure certain things. It looks like those things are not what we got to measure. And we started iterating, and we did it pretty aggressively. We wanted to look at how things are working in discussion forums. No, there was not much talk about that. So okay, let's not give that much importance to it. But what's happening is, let's look at how news is performing, how press releases are being tracked, how press releases are actually getting through. Our press releases coming out with blogs, etc. So it is after about 7, 8 iterations of the report, that is when we could actually sit back and say, okay, now we have data points. We have trends which we can see in those data points. What is the next? We established certain benchmarks. Said this is the rate at which you tweet. Every week, so many tweets go on. Your competitors are putting out X, Y, Z numbers. Do you want to match them? What is it that we do? That is when we actually sit down, refine the model, think of the framework, and it is actually, it took about a year for this particular example that I'm talking about for us to figure out the framework. And today, almost 2 years later, now the client has gone ahead and actually invested in one of the paid tools to measure social media. And while saying that, I need to share that when we started engaging with the client, we just used whatever is available. That's the way we started. So getting into social media analytics is not really that much of a challenge. If you're willing to try, if you're willing to give it a shot, definitely I think there's a way you can start. This brings us to the next perspective we actually have. Just like how we have data coming in from offsite sources, it is a given that you take any business and you can actually find n number of data sources that are actually there within the organization. Now, as an analyst or someone who's working in the online presence, working with the online presence of the particular brand, it is possible that we totally focused on whatever web analytics data we can get. Let's take an example of a company that is actually dealing with garments, maybe it's shirts, and they have an e-commerce store. All efforts that the online marketing team puts on there is about optimizing the conversion rates for the online store. Now, theoretically, it's possible that there is a point beyond which we can't optimize anymore, because after some point in time, it is not purely your online presence, it's not purely what you do with your website that's going to impact your conversion. The quality of the product, the way in which the brand is marketed, so many things are there. And there's enough data typically within all organizations that are available in various pockets across. Taking the same example forward, it's possible that this company which has a website, e-commerce website, also sells the very same brands through the retail stores. There's enough data there on what types of shirts are sold, what are the sizes, what colors actually. Wouldn't it be interesting if we can actually get the sales data and look at the e-commerce sales data that we can actually get from the website and see if there's any correlation? The same type of shirts, the same number, the shirt size number, colors. What happens after the e-commerce transaction is made? Suppose somebody is really unhappy with the product because the quality of the product or the fulfillment, the product was delayed. Such data is never captured and tied back to the online analytics. But it would be there. If you conduct a formal survey, it will be there in survey results. The feedback which is given by the customers to the product managers, brand managers, it will be available in the organization. Don't you think that someone who actually made a purchase on the website but had a very bad experience with it will definitely not come back and make a purchase? So, what are we saying? The real life experience